Hi, welcome to the GPBM Peace Talks. GPBM stands for Grassroots Peacebuilding Mentors Training Program, a program developed by Mindanao Peacebuilding Institute or MPI to help enhance the capacities of grassroots peace builders from different parts of the world with the skills and values to be mentors to junior peace builders. In this podcast, we will sit down with peacebuilding mentors and advocates to talk about relevant peacebuilding topics and to learn more about their inspiring journeys and advocacy efforts. This platform will also feature recorded mentoring and peacebuilding sessions given by selected MPI alumni and friends. Enjoy listening. Greetings of peace and prosperity to everyone listening to the GPBM Peace Talks podcast. I'm your host, Ana Ginko. And for the pilot episode of this podcast, by the way, we're still working out the title for this show, so feel free to send us your suggestions. As I mentioned, this is our pilot episode, and as we were brainstorming on how we should go about this podcast and who we should invite on the show for the pilot, we were thinking of someone who has lots of stories to share, especially in relation to peace building and the Grassroots Peace Building Mentors Training Program, and most importantly, someone with whom we can comfortably speak through this new media. Of course, I immediately thought of one person, and I'm grateful to be sitting with her today, MPI's former director, Miss Chris Vertucci. Good afternoon, Chris.
Oh, good afternoon, Anna.
Maayong hapon, and thank you very much for saying yes to this invitation. I know you've been busy, but have you been listening to podcasts? Are you familiar with podcasts?
Only very little. Occasionally, I'll listen to one when I'm online.
What's the channel that you're listening to?
Oh, actually, I don't know, but they're related to politics in the United States.
Oh.
Those are the things I have been listening to.
Oh, I mean, during the first phase of the program, the Grassroots Peace Building Mentors Training Program, we had the guidebook. And then during the second phase of the program, we have the e-learning videos. For now, it's exclusive for the mentors, but we will update our listeners on when they can access it online on YouTube. And for the third phase of the Grassroots Peace Building Program, we are having this podcast. And we hope that in the future, we'll have more interviews featuring our mentors and our facilitators from MPI. And then, because as I mentioned earlier, some are more comfortable speaking without showing their face. And of course, some for safety reasons also, they prefer to just be heard just than to show their face. So anyway, Chris, for the benefit of our listeners, to start off, just to start light, can you share with us how did an American come to the Philippines? Missionary work, and how before you got involved with MPI.
Oh, okay. Well, my history here goes back pretty far, Anna. In fact, it's 1978 when I first went to Hong Kong. After experiencing a study visit to mainland China in 1975. And that was my real first introduction to Asia. And then from 75 onward, I had a desire to return. And I was able to do that in 1978. And I went to Hong Kong, where I was working with an NGO for 4 years. But there I met Filipinos who were engaged in the human rights struggle at that time. That was during the time of the Marcos dictatorship. And there was a Filipino couple in Hong Kong that were organizing solidarity internationally on behalf of the Philippines, and also trying to help the world understand the human rights situation in the country at that time. And I met them, and I was just captivated by them and inspired by their commitment to work for justice and peace. And so, after my 4 years in Hong Kong, they had said, well, why don't you come to the Philippines and work with us? And so I said, okay. And I was able then to join a program with the Marino Lay Mission Program, and I came to Davao City in 1984. And that started my journey in the Philippines. And right before I became the director of MPI, I was working with Mennonite Central Committee as a country representative in the Philippines up until 2002. And then I had an opportunity to spend 4 years in East Timor. And then following that, I then was invited to be the director of MPI in 2009.
Wow.
So that's my journey as to how I
That's
got here.
Yeah, that's a very, what do you call it, a very fruitful journey. And I cannot imagine the 70s and 80s here in the Philippines and you coming in during those times. And during those times, who did you consider as your mentor, especially when you came to the Philippines, or do you have any?
Well, the thing is, it was really my first mentor, and my main one is a person by the name of Father Alden Stevenson, who was a Jesuit priest, and he was part of campus ministry at my university. I attended the University of San Francisco in California. And he was the person who introduced me to China and to Asia. And he was a person who did not speak very much. He would never start conversations. He expected, well, he was open to receive anyone to come into his office. And he would then, if you had a question, that would begin the conversation. And then he would respond and he would share his different experiences because he had been in all over the world with his work with the Jesuits and engaged in all kinds of activities. I mean, he was, to me, the Renaissance man, a photographer, an artist, a priest, a teacher, a journalist, a sportsman, a pianist, and a reader. And that is really what fascinated me the most. I mean, he read on all subjects and he reread books. And it was through him that he said, the future lies in Asia. So look to Asia, not to Europe or other parts of North America. And then too, he was a person that was able to articulate things that I felt but was not yet able to articulate myself. And so I found that these conversations were very meaningful to me because, I mean, we would talk about what was happening at that time in the United States politically. I mean, that was during the time of the Vietnam War. The presence of the United States throughout the world, how that impacted so many countries negatively and positively. And he was someone who enabled me to sort through my own questions. And then, like, through him, those questions were clarified, were answered, or produced more questions. But it was a process of sort of learning and then deepening my own knowledge about what was happening in the United States, in the world, etc. And so he was someone that I would say was probably my main mentor. And in that sense of guiding, of helping a person work through confusion, questions, and being available. And then he was someone who, you know, only like spoke when he was asked to speak. So he never imposed his ideas on me, or never did I feel that he was treating me in a condescending manner because I was just a student and he was this very educated, experienced person. And so I would say he was my main mentor. And then my second one, also at the university, was my sociology professor, Mike Howe. And again, actually in age, we were not really that far apart. But at that time, he was still the professor who was studying for his PhD. But he was an innovator and a creative thinker that thought out of the box, especially in terms of what education was. He did not see it as confined only to a classroom. He truly believed in experiential learning. So it was study visits, exposure visits. It was to be engaged with communities, with the issues concretely, and not only in the classroom. And I would say that he's somebody who was also, a person who expanded my horizons. And, maybe in some ways, I took in some of his innovations and ideas about just not conforming to what was given, but then you can think beyond that to other possibilities. And then with him, when I was at the university, for example, we were on two exposure programs. I mean, that's the term that has been used in the Philippines, and it would be appropriate for that, where we actually studied about the farm worker situation in the United States. Now, this is the 1960s, the 1970s, and when the United Farm Workers, for example, was formed, and there was an effort to really unionize, it would have been undocumented Hispanics coming into California for the agricultural work. They were the farm workers. And we traveled from San Francisco to the tip to Mexico, studying the situation by meeting the farm workers, by meeting growers and farmers, and discussing with them what are the issues. And this was part of my sort of a milestone, I believe I would say, my time when I was at the University of San Francisco. These two people were there. And I think it was through them that I am where I am today. If I had not met them, I would not be here today.
So would you say that you had a different career trajectory prior to meeting these mentors? You thought of...
Yes, Anna. I would say, because even when I was at the university, I finished my undergraduate degree, and then I went to law school at the University of San Francisco. But I actually entered law school with the intention that I was not going to practice as an attorney for my life. It was a vehicle to work for social change. And so, but I decided that I would take the California bar exam, because even though I was not going to practice as an attorney, I decided I would still take the California bar, which would allow me to do so if I so wished. So I did take the California bar, and I passed. And then immediately after, I did practice law for 1 year, but I was working with a legal aid office that at that time was part of the War on Poverty program that President Johnson had passed and had developed. And I was actually a volunteer lawyer, or a VISTA. VISTA was then the Volunteers in Service to America, which was the domestic Peace Corps, because at that time it was the Peace Corps and VISTA were the two programs that were established under the War on Poverty. And so I was hired as a VISTA lawyer for a legal aid office right outside of San Francisco. And I was in charge of their family law unit. I was the family law lawyer for that particular office. So most of my clients were women, poor women, both Black, Caucasian, Hispanic, seeking divorces from partners who generally were abusive, both physically and psychologically, and who were seeking a new life by ending this abusive relationship and trying to again rebuild their lives. So that was also an experience that had impact on me. Again, understanding at that time domestic violence, gender violence, that was all part of it when I dealt with my clients. But then following that is when I got this opportunity to go to Hong Kong. And that is the last time that I actually practiced law, which was in 1979, 1980, 1977, I think, is when I finished, and then I went to Hong Kong in January of 1978.
What is interesting about mentors is that they don't really know that they are mentoring you, and I only learned that since joining MPI. My initial impression of mentors are really leaders, like that's equivalent. But I also learned through the mentoring program that it's not the same. I mean, mentors can be leaders, but not all leaders can actually be mentors. And when I hear your stories, I mean, I'm inspired, sort of, but I'm inspired not really to take the same career trajectory, but it gives me a lot of ideas on how I want to what I want to do in the future. But you're not doing it and telling me that I am mentoring you.
Yes.
Yeah, and what you mentioned that your first mentor is the one who doesn't speak unless being talked to. So I think because when I joined MPI in 2021, I can clearly remember the fourth quarter. You were wrapping up the first phase, and you're preparing for the second phase. And when I joined the one of the brainstorming sessions, I have no clue what the program is about. But when I heard the word mentoring, my immediate understanding was a leadership program. But over time, from the many mentors that I've met over the years, these are people with different background, and they have different approach to mentoring, whether that's intentional or whether that's their understanding of the word mentoring. Because I think for some, they also have the same understanding of mentoring as I did years ago, that, oh, I'm so introverted, I cannot be a mentor, or I am not a leader type, so I cannot be a mentor. So we're talking here about the Grassroots Peacebuilding Mentors Training Program that started in 2018. I joined MPI in 2021. But can you talk to us how this program came about, and how did Ashok and Florina, our facilitators, became part of this program?
Well, the thing is, first I will talk about the practical reason for starting this program. MPI was being funded by one donor from Austria, and they had been a very faithful donor to MPI. And at the time that we conceptualized the Mentors Training Program, they had said that they were interested in now only supporting a specific project and no longer providing general institutional support for MPI. So this forced the staff and myself to sit down and brainstorm about what kind of a program or project we felt would be good to begin. And actually, the idea came from former staff Fred Goddard. He mentioned this idea of mentoring and peace building. And then as we talked it out among ourselves, we thought, well, yes, it would be a way that we could engage our alumni. Because again, from the beginning, we were thinking that we were looking for alumni who would participate in the program to become a mentor. And again, it was our desire to increase the critical mass of peace builders, because again, they would be mentoring, they would have mentees. And again, we hope that this would just snowball in a way, and the mentees would become mentors, et cetera, et cetera. So again, it was a way to expand the number of peace builders. And I would say that also when but then again, we were looking at mentoring with a peace building lens. So it's like, I mean, I feel the work of MPI has always been, we look at things like community organizing or human rights work or humanitarian aid. How do you look and engage in these critical activities with a peace building lens? And so we were also saying that for being a mentor, we should look at it from that perspective. And then in terms of Ashok and Florina as our facilitators, we were looking at our list of our core facilitators at that time who were doing the annual training and offering courses. And at that time, Ashok and Florina were doing the trauma course. And they were people that had, vast experience. And they had also a sort of diverse backgrounds, with Ashok as an academic. Florina was working with civil society groups. They had been, all over the world with the work that they had been doing. And they were sort of creative, dynamic people. And so basically we said, well, why don't we invite them? Mm-hmm. I mean, it was basically that. I mean, it wasn't like reviewing carefully resumes and all. Mm-hmm. It was more of the relationship that MPI had already established with them, and the trust that we had in them, and the way they had handled their classes, the way they interacted with the staff. We felt that they would be good facilitators for such a program.
Yeah. With Ashok and Florina, I can definitely, even though I was directly involved in the program, like I'm not a mentor, I was just like an implementer and one of the MPI staff, I can feel Ashok and Florina indirectly mentoring us. Like every time we talk to them, there's that sense of just being parental guidance. I'm sorry, Ashok and Florina. Parental guidance, and it's natural for them. I mean, there are people that are naturally mentors, and you're right. You don't even. That's what I also like about MPI. It's not just about resumes or did you get a PhD or master's. Sometimes when you talk to people, you feel like they're the right person for the job. And
exactly. And the thing is, Anne, I will comment on this. This is a little bit of a side, but going back to Ashok and Florina, for the very first mentoring workshop that occurred during the time of the annual training. We were rushing to organize that first training. And in the rush, there was miscommunication with Ashok and Florina about exactly what this workshop was supposed to be about and all. And actually, I remember it was sort of only clarified when they came face to face. And they had finished their MPI course. And then I can remember them for like 2 full days. The two of them sitting down and rearranging the mentoring workshop, the 5-day mentoring workshop, to correct sort of the end goal of this because of this miscommunication. And I must say, Anna, that workshop was one of the best workshops I have ever attended. I attended as an observer in a way, but it was extraordinary what Ashok and Florina were able to do in such a short period of time. It was absolutely amazing, and it confirmed to me that they were the right people for this work.
Yeah. Mm-mm. I mean, the personalities also of the mentors from the time it was, the program started in 2018 up until now, you'll notice how flexible they are, not just in terms of the course outline, but in terms of their approach. They just know how to approach these people in a way that they will feel comfortable, they will not feel alienated. Especially we have like now we have from different countries, we have from Timor-Leste, Cambodia. And I think it's commendable for the both of them. But it's been, I think the recent count, we have 70 plus mentors already for this program. And what do you have any highlights or important lessons that you gathered, personal lessons or whatever you can share from implementing this program?
Well, I think one was that I think we always must be realistic. And in terms of sort of expectations on the mentors. And I mean, from, again, my involvement with the program up until I stepped down as director of MPI was that the mentors generally are the very capable members of their NGOs. And they're oftentimes in leadership positions within their NGOs, or they're heading programs and all. And they're carrying a very, very heavy load. And from the beginning, MPI had said we wanted the mentorship to sort of be integrated with their work, so there would not be an additional workload on them to participate in MPI's Mentors program. But that is easier said than done. And so I felt that we were, or at times we had to be realistic and say, realistic, the point is saying, I can't continue because I'm carrying too much. And I think a lesson is not to be afraid to say that and to name it. And then related to that, it would also be like, I was thinking, be honest about what you can do as a mentor. And there is also a need to be intentional. I mean, that's also, I think, a lesson learned. That it's just not working with your colleague whom you have determined to be, or whom you have identified to be as a mentee, and assume that the mentoring process will just happen. I personally believe it has to be intentional. The mentor must consciously think of opportunities and times to sit and talk to the mentee, to guide, or to offer counsel, or to listen, or to reflect with that person. So that was another one, because I think sometimes it was like, well, or we're doing mentoring, but then my question would be, were you really doing mentoring? And I would say we should not be afraid to raise that question. and that, again, it should never be taken as a criticism, but it is, to me, a valid question that can be asked. And then I also think also another lesson learned would be in relation to the collaborating organizations, and also their engagement. I think sometimes you have or we would make an idealistic belief in the commitment of the organization to mentoring. But I think you also got to be realistic about that, and also to make sure that the collaborating organizations understand the expectations that MPI have on them in relation to the mentor that's participating in MPI's program. Because I think early on, there was a bit of a disconnect. The MPI's focus was on the mentor and less on the collaborating partner. And I believe there was an effort to rectify that in the next phase, where that shifted, and there had to be some effort to really bring the organization on board to what it means to be a mentor.
Yeah. I think that's one thing that I appreciate about this program, because a lot of programs are short term, like 1 year, and then you come up with the lessons that you learn, but you no longer have the opportunity to apply the lessons that you learned. And I think I came in during the second phase of the project. It was like there was still a lockdown at the time, so the mentoring workshop for the phase 2 batch 1 was online. But the longer I worked with the project and with the project officer, even indirectly or directly, I'm always, because I reflected on this morning, how mentoring brought back humanity to the work that we do. Humanity in the sense that it recognizes peace workers or community service workers as humans, that even though you impose that certain project, it doesn't guarantee that you'll meet the goals 100%. Because I was thinking earlier that in the 90s, I think, when they tried to professionalize NGO work, and then eventually there's this like reporting, and then you have the monitoring and evaluation, we were boiled down as data sets. And then I felt like as I joined the mentors in their journey through this program, I realized the challenges that they've encountered, the resilience in overcoming those challenges, so that they can still mentor in the best way that they can. And it was the 1 year program. I mean, what do you expect in 1 year? Do you expect mentors to have a consistent, the expectation, that's like what you said earlier, the expectation that the mentors will have a consistent performance for the 1 year program. I mean, they're humans, they have also their own work.
Right, yes.
And I think the mentoring program, for me at least, it's more of a relief that they are being reminded that they're being constantly reminded that, you know, we have the self-care plan. We do have, like, you talk to your mentee, you talk to your supervisor, reevaluate where you are in that journey, and then recalibrate the plan that you do, and then, you know, that whole flexibility thing. That's what I like about the...
Yes, and that relates to being realistic.
Yes.
And then and as I said, it's not a judgment.
Yes.
And I feel like the program never made a judgment.
Yes.
But it's just recognizing the reality. And then how do you then make adjustments? How do you recalibrate in order to get back on track, and then again work towards your goal?
Yes.
Which, true, I mean, it's like a goal that is an ongoing goal anyway.
Yeah, and we always emphasize at the end of the 1 year journey that, I mean, you can still continue your mentor. It doesn't, just because it's a 1 year program, it doesn't stop you from being a mentor. it continues, and then maybe your mentee can be mentors as well. So, any success stories you wish to share, Chris? Something that stood out for you in the past how many years? 7 years, I think. In the 7 years, 6 years from the previous mentors that
That's
you've
right.
met.
Seven. Well, I was again thinking about one mentor in the very first program.
First
And
phase.
First phase, batch one. And I believe that she was somebody who had been a staff of MPI. Again, she was somebody who also had been started as a secretariat volunteer to a staff of MPI, and then to a staff of an international peacebuilding organization in Davao. And then she actually now is working with another international NGO, but is based in Thailand and is working for the Myanmar people. And again, I saw her journey as a success story. And I think her experience in the mentoring program for that 1 year was significant in that journey. And there are, I'm sure there are other people that I know of that have moved on. That's right, to other very interesting positions and all that have been part of the mentoring, MPI's Mentors program.
Yeah.
And so I would say that, well, that's one story,
Yeah.
and I remember.
So how do you see the program evolve in the future? Like right now, we're trying to stick with what worked and what we learned over the years for the mentoring program. But we are now in the third phase of the program, 9 years of the implementation of the program. So what's next for mentoring? What do you think?
Well, I would say that I think, again, it's important to continue the expansion of the collaborating organizations. To countries like Myanmar, for example. I have been reflecting on this, especially because of the situation in Myanmar and what I know our alumni have gone through, and what I know is happening there right now. And the fact that I think the whole resistance movement is really a youthful movement. It is mainly young people that are leading it. And I think it would be good for some of those young people to have this opportunity to be part of a 1 year mentoring program, because in some ways I think it does provide you have a time to at least set aside your engagements, your commitments, and then you can take time out for some reflection and for, again, rejuvenation. And I think it's critical for young people who are engaged in such a struggle that is happening now in Myanmar. And I know from the beginning we were careful about that because it was wanting to know the partners who would identify the mentors, so that you will be assured that people will maintain their commitment, will fulfill the requirements, etc. But I guess now, knowing we've gone 7 years already, and we have slowly expanded it to other countries, and it seems to be working, that I no longer would fear that and feel like it would be important to continue to look for new collaborating partners in countries where the situation is quite topsy-turvy, in turmoil, in conflict, or where war is actually occurring. The next would be, I know in the later, after maybe in phase 2 and phase 3, there was the idea of forming the MPI alumni
Community of
mentors clusters,
yes,
or the community of mentors. And I think that is something that should continue to be a focus, and for MPI to continually to think of ways to make them catalysts. I mean, how can this be actualized? Because again, you can speak about it and it sounds very good. But then you say, what is it in reality? What is it on the ground? And I think maybe there could be more thinking about how to make that a reality, where you can say, we think we have such a group. It may also not be a specifically defined group, but there may still be a way that you feel there is coordination among mentors in one place where this type of exchange is taking place. Do you see what I mean? It's like, again, to try to think out of the box and other ways that you could define that a group has been formed. All right. And that the group then would be, as I said, catalyst for social transformation. Then I think the other, I feel again, this is the dovetailing with sort of the MPI alumni clusters. I mean, this was an idea or the goal for the research documentation and learning arm of MPI. It was the outreach to the alumni. And again, this idea of how do we actualize the formation of MPI alumni? How do we facilitate some ongoing connections in their localities in order for them to apply their learnings? Again, with the ultimate goal of increasing our critical mass of peace builders. So I see, again, the mentors is basically similar, and they can connect with, the mentors that they have done additional training in mentorship, and maybe they can be both the catalyst for the mentors, and then basically they're alumni, so they are also being the catalyst for the MPI alumni groups, and then maybe build on that connection so that maybe they will make efforts to do training. I mean, not just do the mentoring, that they can also, this idea of having trainings locally in the places where there are alumni, this idea of, echoing what they learned at MPI and then doing it in their own localities, in their own languages, modifying, contextualizing the materials that they have had. That is what I think that maybe there can be emerging with that and with the mentors. And to basically continue that goal of MPI.
That's a very interesting, next steps for the. It's not an entirely different direction, but it's more of it connects to the original
Yes.
goal. Yes. You met our mentors from phase 3 during the annual training, right?
Yes.
Yes. And I'm very interested. You've witnessed different batches over the years, and I'm wondering, do you have any word of advice? They are, as of recording this podcast, they are going to have their midterm workshop this week. And it's a crucial time. It's the time when they might be encountering challenges in terms of, it's almost the end of the year. They have their own deadlines and a lot of work to do. But Any messages to and any message to the current and future mentors that are part of the program?
I would say first, don't give up in the face of all your challenges, disappointments, disillusionments, or demoralizations, depending on what is happening personally or in your society or in your country. But also, I feel like remember that this is a group you can trust, and our facilitators create the safe and sacred space for you to share and to not be afraid to admit your limitations or things that you may say you feel that you have not made the grade, but don't be afraid to speak honestly from the heart about what your experience has been so far. It is so important, I think, to be honest with yourself and to be honest with your fellow mentors, because again, the honesty creates an environment of trust, of openness, and that only, to me, solidifies relationships, strengthens those relationships, and that will strengthen you as a mentor as well, to face the problems, the challenges, but then also to find ways to improve. And then I think sometimes sharing honestly, you find that other mentors have the same feelings or have had the same experiences. And so if one shares, that opens the door for others to share too. So I would ask everyone to come with openness, with honesty, and a willingness to go deep, and to use this as to the maximum, because it's a very special time that you have been given to come and be here with this group of people, to separate yourself from your busy, hectic, engaged schedules and take time out for reflection and adjustments, so that you will leave with more energy to continue the rest of the journey.
I think you're also speaking to me. Like I feel like I'm also getting wonderful advice from you, Chris. We have to wrap up the podcast, but I think we would love to hear you're a mentor to a lot of peace builders from MPI alumni from different parts of the world, and with all that is happening around the world, like people are confused, people are they just don't know, especially I guess in the peace building, among the peace builders in the Philippines and abroad. Do you have any words of encouragement to our MPI alumni, like in these trying times, I guess I would say?
Well, let me think. Again, I would say also to our MPI alumni, and yeah, to all the peace builders throughout the world, it really is a very, very difficult time worldwide. And I guess I keep telling myself that I can't lose hope. I can't, I must stop myself from saying, I give up. It is too overwhelming. It is just too overpowering. The forces of, well, I will say of evil, of violence, of destruction, sometimes can be so overwhelming that you just want to, stay in bed, pull the covers over your head and go back to sleep and, hope for the best when you wake up. But I feel like now is the time that people like us who have been trained, but even more than that, who have made a commitment to work for a better world. This is the time that is needed for us to speak or to be engaged, to be knowledgeable, to participate in efforts to resist these forces that can be so crushing, that can be so overpowering. Because, again, we have to continue to make the connections with each other, because, again, I feel like when we connect and when we can say, I'm tired, and the other person can say, well, I understand, but I can carry on now, to give you a chance for a break. That is what sustains us in this peace building journey that is really long term. And so that's what I would say. Don't give up. Call out for help. Contact your buddy or contact, an MPI alumni friend whom you met in your classes, or the MPI staff, or any of the former staff, and just say, I need you to listen to what I'm feeling at this moment. Because I think if we do that, we have a better chance of then making it through these very, very difficult times without saying, I have given up, I will just go on with my life, and I'm not going to worry about all of these other things that are happening around me and in my world.
And that's very, we want to take that out of this podcast and just like make us listen to those wonderful words of wisdom, Chris. Thank you very much. I mean, we would love to talk to you, but it would take us like the whole day. But thank you very much for saying yes to this invitation, and we hope to have you again in the future.
Sure.
And maybe we'll have more guests to discuss certain peace building topics. And this has been the pilot episode of the GPBM Peace Talks. Again, thank you very much, Chris. And we have a lot of podcast conversations that we hope to upload in the coming weeks. So this podcast will be available on Spotify and YouTube under the name GPBM Peace Talks. So please do share this channel with your friends and network, especially our MPI alumni. And if you have any comments for this episode, or if you have any suggestions on who we want to interview for the pod, please leave a message in the comment section. Daghang salamat and have a great day ahead.